these things are creeping up on everyone. Nobody's escaping father or grandmother time in this case, right? They're gonna kind of, like you said, the bottom falls out eventually, and the more you can get ahead of this, the more important that is, and that starts in as early as possible, I guess. How would you define perimenopause? Is that an age, an average? Is it what kind of phase of life is this?
Yeah, we're gonna say perimenopause is the 40s, but it could be the late 30s as well, for sure. It is a little bit difficult to define. It's kind of often defined by presence of symptoms once again. So symptoms would be things like, the one of the things that catches women's attention is the menstruation changes, right? Instead of like if they have a 28-day cycle, like all of a sudden I came every 21 days, or I had a 21-day cycle, or I had a 40-day cycle. We will say this for the perimenopausal women listening, once they've had a 60-day cycle, they're deeply footed into perimenopause at that point. And I just like I have a passion to speak to the 50-year-olds who are perimenopausal. Like it's kind of a surprise, but it's amazing how different all of our experiences are. But we've spoken to women who are 53, 54, who tell us they're still regularly cycling. I'm like, "Okay, you're still perimenopausal just based on your age, right?" And then maybe what they do is they go 10 months without a period, and then they have a period at that, say, 10 months, and you've got a 53-year-old. And here she's thinking, "I need to go reset the clock," because and technically that's true. It's 12 months without a period that you become menopausal, but there is such an intense focus on this, and it's misleading women because they think that they don't have to pay attention or they don't need to start HRT until, like, they've hit that 12-month mark. And, their hormones are in decline. They're in decline, even honestly, even if you're 53 and still somewhat regularly cycling. So, ah, those women, that's a special case. We are trying to communicate to them till we're blue in the face here.
Well, and because what you said, I mean, the data is rock solid, whether you're functional medicine or conventionally medicine minded, it really doesn't matter. That 60 days without a cycle, just one episode of those, we know there are vascular changes started already. So even if you're 43 and you are 60 days without a cycle, or 53, 60 days without a cycle, your heart health is at risk. It just is by factor of the fact that these declining hormones trigger genomic actions that we desperately need in order to maintain homeostasis in the body. When they start to falter, that homeostasis is broken. We start to have changes. As Maria said earlier, whether you can feel it or see it or not, it doesn't really matter. We know that the declining sex hormones are triggering them. So that changing menstrual cycle can be a really good sort of bellwether for folks to realize, like, I'm not having hot flashes, but boy, that cycle change started. I should pay attention. The hard thing is so many women right now are being treated with hormonal birth control, or they're getting ablations, or maybe they've had a hysterectomy, or they simply have an IUD. So suddenly we've taken one of these benchmarks off the table. There's no cycle change to direct them to pay attention. And that starts to concern us, which is why we're saying it doesn't really matter whether you have symptoms or cycle changes. Looking at your levels, even though they're erratic in peri, you just test a few times, you can start to see trends and patterns. If you're really truly that unicorn who feels nothing, that's great. You still have to pay attention. I suspect most of them are feeling something. They're just not attributing it to the hormone loss, right? They don't realize that the worsening anxiety or getting pretty bitchy at the family at night, or, a little bit of sleep onset or sleep disruption, or not being able to recover in the gym as well. I mean, these are signs also. So, we just want to get the message out that, like, doesn't matter what your sign is. We all going to go through it and you all got to pay attention.
That's fascinating. I never thought of that, like in the case of the pill, kind of removing this internal warning light on the dash system that helps you go like, "Oh, okay, something's off here," because
Right.
you don't have that other state to compare it to, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Then, so the decline is causing these issues. You said even if you don't feel them, it's causing like arterial issues and vascular
Mhm.
issues and obviously hormonal issues. So these are building and building and building. And then at a certain point, the rug is pulled completely under your feet. Now the
Mhm.
hormones are gone completely. What is it about these hormones that we lose that actually contribute to declining health, whether it's arterial or whether it's, bone, muscle, neurological? Like, what is the function of them and why is the loss of them so detrimental?
Well, you have receptors for so hormones are one thing, right? It's the hormone is also called the ligand. It has to go into a receptor, and receptors are on every area of the body, from the optic nerve to the colon, to the immune cells, right? And so it's just that when that's not there, it coordinates our immune response. Um, things become uncoupled, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah, I think that's why we get frustrated with this definition centered around menstruation and fertility, because some women will say, like, "Well, I ovulated last month." Like, I don't freaking care that you ovulated. Like, honestly, this hormonal decline is menstruation and fertility are just one aspect of what the interplay of these hormones are doing in the body. There's so many more things that it's all they are also doing. And when women start to understand that, we were taught to kind of loathe our menstrual cycle, when in reality, that cycle was telling us that all ships are sailing, like all things are working. Your liver has enough LDL receptors to keep clearing your LDL and maintain a good lipid profile. Your bones have the right signals between osteoblasts and osteoclasts to maintain their density. And your muscles are not going to start shifting from fast twitch to slow twitch. You're going to maintain some sort of power feature in your muscles. Those are the things that also that menstrual cycle, or really the hormones doing their dance, are contributing to. And that's the piece that so many women are missing, is we focus on the menstrual cycle and fertility, and we focus on symptoms. And Marina are like, the menstrual cycle, yeah, sure, that's one thing that they're doing. They're doing so much more. I mean, the lubrication of our eyes. Women most of the times, are like, brains are going, what? When I have dry eye and my 44 years old, that might be a sign of some of my sex hormones on the decline. Yes, it might be. No, obviously, a lot of things contribute to symptom changes or different things in the body, but the primary driver of homeostasis for women is the beautiful, robust presentation and rhythmic dance of our sex hormones.
All right, friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Radical Health Radio. We got a fresh new podcast for you every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, consider liking, subscribing, reviewing, and rating us on your podcast platform. It helps us spread this message of radical health. We'll see you next week.